Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is Friday. We are back with the YouTube live series talking about Whole30 Reintroduction. If you've been following along in the replays or if you've been joining us live, I have walked you through just about every day of the January Whole30, walking through my Whole30 day-by-day book and talking about support and motivation and guidance and answering your questions. And now we are into phase 2 of the Whole30 Reintroduction, which is, as we have discussed extensively, just as important, just as mission critical as your elimination. In fact, maybe even more so, because this is where you get to learn how the foods you've been eating are actually impacting you. And this is the part where you get to build your food freedom plan. It all starts here in reintroduction. And we are on our second official reintroduction category today. We are preparing today to reintroduce legumes tomorrow. So that's what I'm here to talk to you about. I'm going to walk you through reintroducing legumes, the kinds of foods you might want to reintroduce, the meals in which you might want to reintroduce them. We can talk about what you've learned from your added sugar reintroduction and take any lessons that you've learned going forward, and I will answer any and all of your reintroduction questions. So good morning. Hello, hello. Good morning, Kathleen. Happy second reintroduction item day. Of course, as always, we have Betsy from Whole30 HQ. Good morning, Betsy. Thanks always for joining us. You do such an incredible job with community management and with our content. It's always so fun to see you here. So thanks so much. And don't forget to make sure that you subscribe. I have so many cute little icons here. Make sure that you subscribe to our Whole30 YouTube channel and make sure you click that little thumbs up button to share this video with other people who are interested in the Whole30. Yes, we are in phase 2. And I'm glad that these videos have been so helpful, Ruth. That makes me really, really happy. Good morning. I know I missed hanging out yesterday too. And you're not sure about legumes for meal 1. Let's talk about it, Patricia. Let's talk about it. I also had a question here. Let's go back to Maggie's question real quick on added sugar, since we are just officially wrapping up this category. Isomalt from beets, Whole30 compatible. Oh, that's interesting. Where are you seeing isomalt? In what product? I actually haven't heard that one come up in a really long time, so I'm going to have to do some digging. I would imagine that it would count as added sugar, much like a coconut sugar, even though it comes from coconuts. If it's used as a sweetener, it would count as added sugar. So that would be something that you would reintroduce, but I'm really curious where you saw that as an ingredient. So if you want to share that in the chat, Maggie, we can dig into that a little bit more. Patricia, good morning. You are asking about legumes for meal 1. We're going to talk about that in one hot second. I definitely want to come back to that. Abby, hi. I am feeling, my concussion is not great these days. So this is the only thing on my calendar for today in terms of calls. And I really wanted to be able to show up for you here today. And I wouldn't have if I didn't have capacity. You know, I can hold my own boundaries, but I rested really well last night. I didn't go to the gym this morning. I got a good night's sleep so I could show up here today because this is the funnest part of my day. So I am here and thank you so much. Good afternoon, Renelle. Excited to reintroduce legumes and feeling good after added sugar. No cravings, no other side effects. Love it. Love to see it. Fantastic. Chris is saying it's your first YouTube live ever, ever at all. Welcome, Chris. I did my very first YouTube live ever at all also for the January Whole30. Whole30 wasn't really on YouTube too much. We had a couple videos, but we weren't conscientiously or consistently posting here. And now we are. And you've got a ton of videos to watch. And there are some really cool shorts and some good videos. And we've got a lot of lives. So I'm glad that we could be here with you first thing this morning. All right, let's talk about legumes real quick, since maybe some of you are making breakfast. Might be a little bit late for breakfast. But if you're not sure about legumes for meal 1, there are a few ways you can think about it. So let's talk about reintroducing legumes. We are talking about soy in any form. So that might look like edamame. It might look like tofu. It might look like tempeh. Oh, actually, wait, sorry. Reintroduction of legumes is tomorrow. So we have plenty of time to talk about breakfast. We're eating Whole30 today. I got you. So we're talking about soy, tofu, tempeh, edamame. Those kinds of soy products. Maybe even soy sauce instead of coconut aminos. We're talking about any form of beans or lentils. So I've got some of my favorite Dozen Cousins products here. These are their black beans. These are Dozen Cousins refried pinto beans. They are a Whole30 approved partner for other foods that they produce. They've got amazing like sauce and spice mixtures, but they also make black beans and they also make rice, and they are absolutely delicious. You can find them at a ton of different grocery stores. I got mine at Thrive Market, but you can reintroduce beans in any form. So it would be black beans, it could be pinto beans, it might be chickpeas or hummus or lentils, any form of bean, white bean, kidney bean, navy bean, all beans. And then don't forget that Legumes also includes peanuts. So I also have my favorite brand of peanut butter here. This is Thrive Market's brand of peanut butter. It's organic. It's my favorite. And I react much better to peanut butter than I do to almond butter. So peanut butter is kind of my go-to. But you could do peanut butter or peanuts for your reintroduction. So those are just a few of the reintroduction foods. So if you're talking about meal one, Patricia, here are some ideas. Make a scramble, your normal veggie scramble in the morning, but instead of eggs, which are super expensive now anyway, scramble it up with an extra firm tofu. So you would just take your extra firm tofu, you would press it out. We've got a really good tofu series on the plant-based Whole30 Instagram feed from our dietitian friend Ryan. So you can use Ryan's tips to press out the tofu, and then you would scramble it just like eggs. So it's remarkably light and fluffy. It has a very egg-like consistency, but you would eat your normal Whole30 breakfast scramble, tons of veggies, avocado on the side of fresh berries with tofu instead of eggs. That's one way to do it. The other way you could do it is you could make yourself a little breakfast burrito with either jicama shell tacos or maybe just in a lettuce wrap, and you would add black beans. So breakfast burritos are a real thing on any restaurant menu, and you don't need the actual burrito. We're going to save the burrito for either corn or grain, whole grain reintroduction day. But you can make a breakfast burrito and just scramble up some eggs with some black beans, and you would add some salsa and some guacamole and have sort of a Mexican inspired or a Southwestern inspired breakfast. That's another way to do it. The other thing that you could do is some kind of fruit on the side with peanut butter. So you could make your normal breakfast, and then for your side, instead of doing a side of fresh berries or some other fruit like melon, you could cut up an apple and serve it with some peanut butter. So that's another way you could do it. So choose any or all of those. Remember, you can also have anything you want for meal one. So one of the things that you could also do is if you're reheating the smoky sweet potato chili for breakfast, for example, just take some cooked black beans and add it to the chili after the fact when you reheat it. So now you've got a chili, which you've been eating, and it's delicious and it's Whole30, but you've added some black beans, crack a fried egg over the top if you want to, and that's another way to have legumes in meal one. So any or all of those would be a really delicious way to try legumes in any variety. You could do that for any meal, meal one, meal two, meal three. Don't forget, you could try tempeh instead of tofu if you want. Light Life, I believe it's called, makes the tempeh. I just bought it again from Thrive Market. I air fried it. It was really tasty. There's a Kung Pao tempeh recipe that just came out on the plant-based Whole30 newsletter as well. So as you're reintroducing legumes, head on over to the plant-based Whole30 Instagram feed, because that would be a fantastic source of recipes and inspiration for you, because on the plant-based Whole30, they have been eating legumes all along. That's part of the plant-based Whole30 program. So you can find great inspiration there for legume reintroduction day if you're not used to cooking with tofu or cooking with tempeh. So those are good resources for you as well. And I hope that helps. Yeah. Lisa, you woke up yesterday with a zit. Oh, I wonder if that was the added sugar. Added sugar is definitely often a culprit in breakouts. So yeah, that could be good information for you. I tend to break out the most when I eat gluten. In fact, it's very reliable, and it's the only time I break out is when I have gluten. So it allows me to avoid gluten during those periods where I just want my skin to not be broken out. I'm traveling next week for media. I'm going to be on GMA3 next week talking about the Book of Boundaries. There will be no gluten between now and next week because I don't want to show up on GMA3 with skin breakouts. I just want to. It's uncomfortable. So that can be really good information for you when you think about the timing of reintroducing added sugar in your food freedom. You know, the is it worth it question, you have to take into account your context as well. If it's worth it on a random Saturday when you're just home, not doing anything, and you don't have any plans for the next 2 days, absolutely go for it. But if you've got to give a big presentation or you're in your friend's wedding, it may not be worth it. And so this context is going to be really helpful for helping you make those decisions in your food freedom. Love to see it. Jenna is asking a fantastic question. Jenna, I'm so glad you brought this up. This has come up a couple times. Since I've already reintroduced one food group, can I just keep that in as I'm reintroducing the others? The answer is no. I want every food group to be reintroduced individually, like a scientific experiment. We want to isolate just the impact of that food group. As we're thinking about it now, when we're on just day 2 of reintroduction, we're about to reintroduce our second food group, it probably doesn't feel like that big a deal. You're like, why can't I just eat my honey maple turkey when I reintroduce legumes? And you know what? It might not be that big a deal. But think about what happens as you go on with your reintroduction. The way we've ordered reintroduction, the food groups that you bring back are in order of, according to our extensive experience watching millions of people go through the Whole30, least likely to be problematic to most likely to be problematic. So that's why you've got added sugar, you've got legumes, next you've got, I think, non-gluten grains, then you've got dairy, then you've got gluten grains. If you just continue to keep the things you've reintroduced in your diet, by the time you get to gluten grains, you'll be reintroducing gluten on top of dairy and corn and rice and soy and peanuts and legumes and sugar. And then if something goes wrong and you don't have a good experience, you really won't know what factor to blame for what symptom because you've reintroduced gluten into an environment where you're basically eating everything already. That's why reintroduction is so carefully scheduled and why we want you to reintroduce each food group very systematically as its own experiment into the environment of an otherwise Whole30 diet. Because that way, if you reintroduce legumes and you have a breakout, you won't have to wonder, well, was it the sugar that really added up or was it the legumes? You'll know that it's probably related to the legumes because you haven't had added sugar in 3 or 4 days. So it's really important to stick to the reintroduction schedule as is. I know it requires a little bit of patience for sure, but it's going to be worth it because you're going to learn the most out of your experience if you stick to reintroducing each food all by itself. So thank you for giving me that opportunity to answer that question. It's come up a few times in my Instagram DMs, and I'm glad that I could answer that for you. Cody is saying you felt low energy, emotional, and anxious after adding back sugar. That can definitely happen. And I think it could be, maybe it's the dose. Maybe you added back added sugar to a degree that your body just wasn't super happy with. It could be the types of added sugar that you chose to introduce. So this is why I say reintroduction is a lifelong process. Every time you reintroduce something with added sugar, just pay attention. See if you can spot commonalities. See if you can spot patterns. But definitely pay attention to the idea that you felt kind of not great the day after reintroducing added sugar, because that's going to give you valuable information about where and when to say yes to added sugar in your diet in a way that allows you to still feel as good as you want to feel. So there you go. Okay, Maggie's coming back with an update. It's in the Choco Love No Sugar bar, and it does not agree with your digestive system. I'm pretty sure isomalt is a sugar alcohol. I'm going to have to I don't want to look it up on the fly. I will find out for you, or I can ask Betsy to look up isomalt real quick for us. But I would definitely pay attention if it doesn't agree with your digestive system. I think it is some kind of sugar alcohol, the more I thought about it. So we'll find out for you. Stay tuned. Thanks, Susan. I am feeling a little bit better today. Yeah, you're definitely going to notice I'm not quite as eloquent maybe as I usually am. That's just concussion stuff, but y'all will absolutely keep up with me and show me grace. I know that. You did a dozen cousins black beans in your veggie omelet yesterday. Yes. Ugh. Well, I'm not going to turn this into a dozen cousins Stan account, and they did not sponsor this video or anything, but I just love this company. I love how easy they make it to add black beans or pinto beans or refried beans or bone broth infused rice into my diet. You can find it at so many grocery stores. Oh, I just love it. And I love the company. The founder, Abraham, has an amazing Whole30 story as well. I mean, the connection is just so fantastic. So love me some Dozen Cousins, and I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Yes. Erin is saying sugar and you are not friends. I get it. Cranky, lethargic, second person in a row to say more anxiety. That comes up all the time. Sugar and anxiety comes up all the time. Second only to sugar, anxiety and alcohol. They come up all the time together. So did you overdo it? Should you test with less? Maybe. Yeah. You could do a couple different things. You could either repeat your added sugar test now and delay legumes. Probably not that important. I would maybe stick to the reintroduction schedule now, keep that in the back of your head, and then reintroduce in your food freedom a bit more carefully. So, if you overdid it, think back to what you ate during sugar reintroduction day and think which one of those experiences was really worth it. Which one was not at all worth it? Would I do one of these in a day, but maybe not all three? Because remember, we ask you to reintroduce added sugar with every single meal. So that's 3 or 4 occasions a day where you are purposefully adding sugar into your meal. You might not do that in your food freedom. I absolutely don't do that in my food freedom. Most of my meals are Whole30 compatible, and I rarely deliberately pick something that has added sugar unless it's a protein source like a honey maple chicken. So I would say stick with your reintroduction schedule, and when you get into your food freedom, do the same thing. Just reintroduce and continue to pay attention. And make sure you go back and look at your added sugar reintroduction day and do like a good solid analysis. What did I eat? How did I feel after that? Was the effect cumulative? Did I feel worse as the day went on? Did it not hit me until the next day? Which one of those food groups was worth it, or foods were worth it? Could I still get the same delicious sweetness that I wanted in my coffee, but just use a different form of sweetness so that maybe it didn't have the same blood sugar, impact that the choice of sugar that I used had? All of these things are sort of like their own mini experiments in your food freedom. And I think it can be really, really fun, where you pay attention, you try different things, you see how it works out. Sometimes it works out great, sometimes it doesn't, but it's all just a learning experience. That is your food freedom, and you can have a lot of fun with it. So that's what I would do, Erin, is I would say, keep going. And if you want to either add another sugar reintroduction day at the end, you could. Or if you just wanted to start playing around with it in your food freedom and pay attention, that would also work for you. Claudia is saying green beans with eggs. I like that, but green beans are Whole30 compatible. So you're not adding anything in from the eliminated food groups there. Green beans are something that you can have on your Whole30. Maybe you weren't eating them, but they tend to be nowhere near as problematic digestively, especially as legumes. So you might want to pick something that is definitely more bean or lentil in nature for that. Peanut butter with apples is your meal one plan. Yes. I love good peanut butter with a Granny Smith apple. That's my favorite combination. I think it's great. Peanut butter with bananas, also great. I'm sure that there are other fruits that you can pair with bananas that also would be delicious. Also, another way that I love to add peanut butter is I love peanut butter on a burger. So I've been eating peanut butter burgers for a really long time. I just make my own. You make your own burger at home, whether it's a turkey burger or a grass-fed ground beef burger, whatever. And you slather a bunch of peanut butter on it. Sounds weird, is delicious. Is delicious. And if you've been eating burgers as part of your Whole30 or ground beef, that's the perfect way to introduce peanut butter. Slather it on a burger. I'm telling you, you won't go back. It's very, very good. Let me know if you try it. Henry just heard burger and he came barging in like a wrecking ball, as usual. Hi, buddy. Let's see. Susan is saying, I didn't have any noticeable reintroduction to added sugar, and you didn't add a significant amount, but you slept great. Perfect. Wonderful. Wonderful. Then you know that you can absolutely get away with whatever you ate yesterday, and it doesn't have a negative impact on your cravings or your digestion or your mood or your sleep. Wonderful. Perfect self-experiment, well executed. Now you've got a lot of really valuable learning lessons to take with you into your food freedom, which is the stuff you ate yesterday is most likely good to go. And what you could play around with is, okay, I ate all of that. in a 1-day period and I felt fine the next day, what would happen if I ate all of that 2 days in a row or 3 days in a row? Or if I doubled my consumption? So maybe you had maybe you added like a tiny bit of maple syrup to your butternut squash. What if you doubled the amount? Those are the experiments you can play with in your food freedom, because at some point you probably would say, okay, enough is enough. I've now reached the quota of added sugar that makes me feel not great. And that's a good limit to hit, because then you know, okay, well, if I go above this, I'm not going to feel awesome. But if I stay below this, I can feel great. So I think that would be a really good experiment to do. And you've got a really good baseline now with which to evaluate. So well done. Claudia, thank you. These are my blue light blocking glasses. They're from Blenders. I paid for them with my own money. The company does not know I exist, but I have them in blue and black, and I find that they really do help. Most of my concussion symptoms are visual in nature. That's the worst of them. My eyes get really, really stressed out. They don't work well together, and it sends huge like alarm bells to my brain, which also gives me headaches and fatigue and anxiety and etc. So if I'm able to reduce the strain on my eyes, it definitely goes a long way. And these blue light blocking glasses in the face of the bright lights that I have are very helpful in my computer screen. So I'm glad that you like them. They are from Blenders. Whole30 is sharing the plant-based Instagram account. Of course, it's such a good resource, and you may really love that in your reintroduction. Yes, obviously celery with peanut butter. Yeah, how did I forget about that? That's like the classic combination. I don't really eat a lot of celery, but I do enjoy it. It's very crunchy. And yes, a burrito bowl sounds really good. Beans to your ground turkey and cauliflower rice, amazing. Just any kind of like stir fry mixture like that, just throw some black beans in. Absolutely. I think that is a great idea. Kathleen is saying, when you reintroduce sugar, would a good test be water with lemon and sugar in it, like a homemade lemonade? Yeah, totally. Absolutely. That would be great. Because I assume that you've had plain water in your Whole30, and you maybe have even had plain water with a little bit of lemon in it. So go ahead and add some sugar, make a little homemade lemonade, and see what drinking sugar does. Absolutely. That would be a fantastic experiment. Miss Shupi, you finished your Whole30 yesterday. Good job. You skipped reintroducing added sugar on its own so you could join with legumes. Perfect. Wonderful. Great. The added sugar reintroduction is always an optional item in all of our books and on our website. Not everybody feels like they want to or need to reintroduce added sugar all by themselves or all by itself. So I think it's completely perfectly fine to skip that day. It was always optional anyway. Join us with legumes. If you decide you want to do a sugar day, you can always tack it on at the end if you want to. We're going to tack on alcohol at the end for anyone who wants to reintroduce alcohol. Some people may, a lot of people may not. So you can absolutely do that at the end if you choose, or you can just join us in legumes. And I think that sounds great. Let's see. Thank you so much, Meredith. I am gonna feel better. I know that I will. Thank you very much. This is how you found out dairy was your main culprit for joint pain and monthly cramps. Yes, Christina is responding to the idea of, is it okay to just leave a food in that I reintroduced yesterday when I'm reintroducing my next food? And I said, no, please don't. One at a time. And Christina is saying, absolutely, this is how I found out dairy was the culprit. So I'm really glad that you were able to have that experience. And Jenna, I was very happy to answer your question. It was a very good question. Here for reintroduction. All right, Shannon, what's going on? I stacked the food groups because of work travel and allowed dairy. Cool. Yeah. You can do reintroduction any way you want. You don't have to follow our schedule. You don't have to stick to our timeline. The only thing I ask, 2 things, which you're obviously already doing. Number 1, 1 food group at a time. Pretty please. That's how you learn the most. And number 2, go back to the Whole30 for 2 to 3 days in between reintroduction food groups so that if you have any negative effects, you give them a few days to settle down before you bring a new food in. Otherwise, the world is your oyster. Or the world is your dairy farm, as it seems, because you reintroduced dairy. No noticeable issues. It was good to add milk to your coffee and cheese to your salad. Yeah, I like that. I missed cheese less than I thought I would. Like, I miss it way less than I thought I would. And I still occasionally eat it, and I can get away with small amounts here or there, but it doesn't make me feel great. And I don't really even miss it that much. I think the fact that we have, like, Kite Hill exists now makes it so much easier for me. I have Kite Hill cream cheese, 2 different containers, 2 different flavors in my fridge at all times. I dip vegetables in it. I dip my meat sticks in it. You know I love me like a chomp snack stick dipped in Kite Hill cream cheese. Life-changing. I slather it on burgers. I slather it in my turkey wraps as like a condiment. I put it on basically everything. And the fact that we have Kite Hill cream cheese, core and rind queso, and all of these different cheese alternatives that are Whole30 approved and give me that creaminess and texture that I was missing with cheese. Like maybe that's the reason I don't miss it that much. These things didn't exist in my early days of Whole30. And I guess I didn't really even miss cheese that much back then. But once you figure out that a food doesn't work for you, it makes it a lot easier not to miss it, because the idea of it now is not like, it's a little bit tainted. When I think about eating a big, bunch of goat cheese in my salad, I'm not like, oh, I miss that so much. I'm like, oh my God, my stomach would hurt so bad with that because I've had that experience. So anyway, I think the fact that we have so many Whole30 approved partners is really great in this category, because if you do miss cheese and you discover that cheese doesn't love you, you have alternatives that would work hopefully just fine in your food freedom. So yes. Beth, you're at a restaurant, you're fine. This is going to get posted to the YouTube channel at Whole30 later. So don't you worry. You watch the replay. Go enjoy your restaurant meal. Emily said sugar also triggered your anxiety up at 3 a.m. with racing thoughts, and you didn't even like most of the foods. See? That's the thing where you're like, this was not worth it in any aspect. I did not love what I was eating with the added sugar. Didn't make me super duper happy. It definitely did not work great for me. Anxiety disrupted my sleep, racing thoughts. Kind of a lose-lose. But it's not a lose-lose for the experience. It's a lose-lose in that added sugar is both not worth it and you didn't enjoy it. So when you go to ask yourself the question down the line in food freedom, is it worth it? Do I want it? The answer to both of those is likely going to be no, unless it's so special or so significant or looks so delicious that you're willing to say, yes, it might be worth it. The experience, though, is so incredibly valuable. This is why I say you can never fail in food freedom. Because if you make a choice that you think is going to be worth it and you thought you really wanted, and then you discover that it wasn't worth it and you didn't want it, that is not a failure. That is an absolute success of your food freedom program. You asked yourself the question, you made an educated, informed decision, you then reflected on that decision, and now you are going to update the information you have in order to make a different or better decision for you next time. There's no such thing as failing in your food freedom. Every single conscientious decision you make gives you more information about how foods work in your body and whether or not things are worth it for you. So I hate that you had the experience, because I would much rather you have a great night's sleep and not have anxiety. But at the same time, now that you've had the experience, it gives you such mission critical information to take with you into your food freedom. So I would say the experience was worth it, because hopefully going back to the Whole30 for these next, yesterday and today is going to get you back to that baseline where you feel great, your anxiety is down, you're sleeping great again, and you can just kind of shake that off. So I hope that that is your experience. Emily, thank you for sharing that with us. Jessica said sugar felt unnecessary at the time, but the next morning you felt legit hungover. Yeah, I feel that, I understand why it feels unnecessary, because we have, for the last 30 days, happily consumed delicious, satisfying foods in basically every single category of our fridge and pantry. Salad dressings, condiments, bone broth, veggies, protein, snacks. None of the things that we've eaten have had added sugar. So it does feel unnecessary. I have all of these now Whole30 approved products where I don't even have to look at the label. I just see the logo on the product and I know that there is no added sugar whatsoever. And I love these products. I love my Made by Whole30 Ranch so much that there's no need to put sugar back into it. I love my new Primal barbecue sauce so much that I don't want to go back to a barbecue sauce with sugar. I love my meat sticks. My Nick sticks, the turkey sticks, are like so good. Why do I want to go back to beef jerky that has like 30 or 40 grams of sugar in it? I don't want to. It does feel unnecessary. And if you have products you love that don't have added sugar, and you know that added sugar doesn't leave you feeling great, there's your answer. Just keep eating mostly no added sugar foods in your food freedom until something comes along that is so delicious, so worth it, that you say yes. That's basically how I work my food freedom plan too. So I love that. It is a learning experience, Darlene. Yes, it is such a learning experience. And that's why I'm so glad that we have these lives. And I'm so glad we're talking about this together, because the more conscientious and patient you can be in this phase, the more you will learn. And every single thing you learn serves you in your food freedom. The Whole30 is designed specifically to get you to food freedom, where you are crafting the ideal, sustainable diet for you, one that feels delicious and special and satisfying and keeps you feeling as good as you want to feel. And what you are learning now is going to serve you in your food freedom. What you're learning now, the stuff you're writing down, is going to be your food freedom textbook. So the more patient you can be here, the more conscientious you can be here, the more involved in the process, the more connected to your body, the more self-aware you are, the more you're willing to reflect on your experience. All of that effort is going to serve you literally for the rest of your life. And that feels really worth it to me. So I'm really glad that all of you are here. All of you are joining in, watching on the replay, paying attention to responses, sharing them here. It's all really important. You found pasta from Veggie Craft Farms at Sprouts that's made from lentil, pea, and zucchini flours. Yes, that would be great. So now you've got a lentil flour, which is a new form of flour because lentil on your original Whole30 is not compatible. And then you've got pea and zucchini flours, both of which would be totally compatible. I will say this, when you distill lentil and process it down to just a flour, it might alter the way that whole lentils would show up in your digestive tract, meaning you may have an easier time tolerating a lentil flour than you do lentils themselves. I will also say this though, you might have a harder time, and here's why. When you distill the lentils down to their flour component, and then you turn it into pasta, in a normal serving of pasta, you are eating a whack ton of flour. It's a lot of flour. Every single strand of that pasta is basically nothing but flour. So what I find when I eat like a chickpea pasta, like banza. So we love banza pasta around here. We keep it in our fridge. Or in our pantry. That would be another great way to reintroduce legumes because it's made from chickpeas. But I can eat a normal serving of hummus with carrots, no problem. No sweat, no digestive issues. Just a small amount of banza pasta makes me incredibly bloated. So there's something about turning the chickpea into flour that my digestion does not agree with. So all of that to say, this would be a great reintroduction category, and pay attention to what happens digestively. And it could be a fun food freedom experiment to go, okay, well, in my reintroduction, I tried this lentil pasta. What if I just ate actual lentils? Would there be a difference in my experience? That could also be something you play around with. I have happened to do that very organically with chickpeas because I eat hummus pretty regularly and my kid loves banza pasta, so I cook it for him pretty regularly. Every single time I make myself a small bowl of his pasta, I regret it because it makes me super bloated and like really uncomfortable. So that could be a fun experiment for you as well. Darlene is saying sugar did not go well and it will be limited in the future because of the brain fog, swollen ankles. Oof. Yeah, that doesn't sound worth it to me either. I feel ya. Definitely not worth it. Not worth it to go back to your sugary ranch dressing when you have your Made by Whole30 ranch, which is even more delicious. No added sugar and none of these extra side effects. Total win-win for Whole30 right here. So yes. Kate is saying raw turbinado cane sugar left a sticky mouthfeel. Maple syrup seemed more crisp and clean, and honey was a train wreck. Interesting. We don't eat a lot of honey at our house, like basically ever. The only reason I keep it here is because I make a cranberry sauce, Danielle Walker's low sugar cranberry sauce, and it calls for some honey. And I usually use like half the amount. We like our cranberry sauce to heart around here. Like my son likes to pucker when he eats cranberry sauce. So we keep some for that, but otherwise I don't eat it. And it is interesting that it did not go well for you. So yeah, again, the fact that you're paying attention so closely to these different forms of sugar, really important and very valuable in your food freedom. Yes. Laura is saying, I think eating sugar intentionally at all 3 meals was not normal. Yes, agreed. Agreed. Well, listen, it doesn't feel normal now. I'm betting for a lot of people that is their normal, and that's just how they approach it, and they don't really even think about how much sugar they're getting in their meals. I know that used to be me before my Whole30, but I think that is a good plan. After reintroduction in your food freedom, you will figure out where the added sugar feels really worth it to you. You'll put it back in. Again, maybe it's a little bit of sweetened coffee. Maybe it's the honey maple in your chicken sausage, whatever that looks like. And then you'll get to evaluate in the context of your food freedom whether it was or wasn't worth it in this more like normal context, this more normal setting than purposefully eating it 3 or 4 times a day. I agree. Abby is also saying, I was very short-tempered yesterday. When you've been happy with your patients up until now. Yeah, sugar can definitely do that. It can. It absolutely can. And still, I will never say that sugar is bad. I won't. Context matters. And I don't ever want you to be afraid of sugar or to feel like you shouldn't ever have sugar. There are certain contexts in which I purposefully eat sugar because it's delicious, because I love it, and because in the context in which I'm including it, it makes me happy or it even serves my health. We've talked about this. When I'm on a hike, I am eating these ProBar gummies where the first ingredient is tapioca syrup, basically the only ingredient. They are nothing but sugar bombs, and I eat them on a hike because they are perfect for keeping my energy sustained, knowing I run better on more carbohydrate and knowing that these like 10 or 12 mile hikes at elevation blow through a ton of carbohydrate in my system. Context matters. If I'm sitting around on the couch all afternoon, just watching Netflix and not moving, am I going to want to put 50 grams of sugar from these ProBar gummies in my body? Probably not. That probably won't make me feel good. But context matters. So always keep that in mind, please. Kate is saying it was good to experiment with different sugars. Yeah, I'm glad. I'm really glad that it was good. I know you approached it very conscientiously because you asked a lot of questions ahead of time about added sugar. So I think it's great that you were able to kind of separate some things out and get different learnings from the different kinds of added sugar you introduced. Meredith wants to know if Brandon's ever done a Whole30. He definitely has. Yeah, he's done it 2 or 3 times, but he is another person who just runs better on a lot of carbohydrate. He does jujitsu several times a week, which just absolutely smokes him. And after his last Whole30, he was kind of like, I really do need like rice and oatmeal in my life. I need it. It makes me feel so much better, helps with my performance. So those were the learnings from his Whole30. He figured out that gluten doesn't really impact him too much unless he eats it really late at night. Gluten plus sugar can be especially nasty if we do too much of it. Like he's figured that out. But yes, he has done a few Whole30s and I never once asked him to. And I never once pressured him to. It was just something that he chose to do on his own. And he was leading a lot of his personal training clients. He's been a trainer for 18 years or something now. He was a pro athlete. He played volleyball, was a trainer. And he was leading a lot of his clients through the Whole30. So he was like, I want to make sure I have the experience when my clients are going through a Whole30. I want to be able to like guide and lead. So yes, he absolutely has. And also found it very valuable, he would say. After all the sugar, your sleep wasn't as good and you were hot when adding black beans, siete chips to make a nacho type meal. That's interesting. So those siete tortilla chips, I believe, are Whole30 compatible ingredients, right? It's cassava flour and a few other things. But I will also tell you that those chips make me bloated as all hell. They're delicious, but it is a lot of flour in one tiny chip. So you can if you want to, because technically it's Whole30 compatible, but I would suggest that you not and reintroduce some of those alternative flour products like the tortillas or the chips or the pastas at a different time without either let that be the only thing you reintroduce, like the lentil pasta we just talked about, or reintroduce them at a different time. Because I would hate for you to have a digestive reaction and then be like, oh, was it the chips or was it the beans? Just my thought. That's what I would say. I know Kite Hill's cream cheese is so good. It is so good. Jenna, the Whole30 that is, we have 2 quesos at least that are Whole30 compatible. Primal Kitchen makes one, but our new Whole30 approved partner is called Core and Rind. And you can find Core and Rind at Thrive Market. I'll drop that in the chat real quick too. Maybe Betsy already did below. But Core and Rind is a new Whole30 approved partner. They're so new, they don't even have the logo on the packaging, like brand new. But they make a few cashew queso dips. We ate them with our tacos last night. So last night we made the orange cumin carnitas from Whole30 Friends and Family Cookbook. We slow cooked up like 2.5 pounds or 3 pounds of carnitas. And then we all ate tacos. My son had them with taco shells, like normal taco shells. I had them in a lettuce wrap, and Brandon just built like a giant bowl, just like a giant bowl on lettuce. But we put the Core and Rind queso over the carnitas, just a little, just like a drizzle, and it was so good. So anyway, those are a few different Whole30 approved quesos, and I get the Core and Rind at Thrive Market. Susie is asking, is sucralose okay instead of sugar? Absolutely. Yep, for sure. Absolutely. Sucralose is a form of artificial sweetener on the Whole30. When you're talking about reintroducing added sugar, you can reintroduce it in any form you want, whether it's real or artificial or a sugar alcohol. So absolutely, that is totally fine. No problem. You are saying that you introduced added sugar and it bothered you in several ways. Energy dip, feeling aggressive, brain fog, itchy face, waking up with puffy cheeks. And your favorite sparkling juice drink tasted gross. I know. We talked about this the other day. Isn't it so sad when you have something that you love so much and you're so looking forward to going back to it when the Whole30 is over, and then you try it and you're like, this doesn't taste as good as I remembered. I know. It's sad. It's a little sad because you're kind of grieving maybe for I used to love this so much and now it doesn't taste as good. But it's also great because now you get, the appreciation of the other beverages that you've been drinking. You've certainly found some other, favorite flavors on your Whole30. But I am sorry that reintroducing added sugar bothered you so much. Again, it's a wonderful learning lesson that you will take with you into your food freedom. Absolutely. Thumbs up to the plant-based Whole30 recipes. Heck yes. And Maggie, thank you. Go to Chipotle. Get a wholesome bowl. Now I'm hungry for lunch and I might just do this. Get a wholesome bowl at Chipotle and have them add black beans. Wholesome bowl, guaranteed Whole30 compatible because it's Whole30 approved. It's literally our bowl at Chipotle. Find it in the app, find it on the website. Add black beans. I think you might get a little warning that says like, hey, this is no longer Whole30 compatible. You can be like, yep, that's cool, Chipotle, I gotcha. But that would be the perfect way to add black beans or legumes back into your Whole30 reintroduction for today. Love that. Love that example. And we do love our plant-based Whole30 recipes. They are so delicious. Speaking of thumbs up, make sure you give a thumbs up to this video, please. If you like it, it will send the video, YouTube will send the video to other people looking for Whole30 inspiration, especially around reintroduction. And we know that people need as much help as they can get during this mission critical part of the Whole30. So thank you for that reminder. Kelly is saying added sugar bothered you. Yep, brain fog, energy dip. Oh yeah, we just went through that one. Kelly, I'm so sorry. Yes, we did talk about that. And you're excited to reintroduce dairy tomorrow. Perfect. Love it. Change that order up and let us go. Let us know how your dairy reintroduction goes as well. You had cheese bison burgers the other night with Core and Rind, and they were oh, that sounds so good. I just love that Core and Rind. It's a woman-owned company, by the way, which I think is fantastic. They're a small business, which I love. We love supporting small businesses in our Whole30 approved program. But they absolutely are. I'm going to screenshot and I'm going to send it over to my friends at Core and Rind because I think they will absolutely love the shout out. Screenshot. Thank you so much for sharing that, Lisa. They are great on burgers for sure. Sauteed onions, sauteed peppers, absolutely do it. Hey, Chris. Your dad texted you this morning to see if you wanted a pound of dark chocolate covered cherries for Valentine's Day, and you said no thank you. They don't even sound good. I feel ya. I feel ya. I have there are a few forms of chocolate that I enjoy. You know how I feel about my Cadbury cream eggs, and it is almost Cadbury cream egg season. But yeah, that doesn't really sound good to me either. So yeah, you don't want it, don't have it, because you know that having it in the house is as good as eating it. It's the same thing. And if you bring them in well, maybe I'll want one just in case, you will probably end up, maybe you try one. Is it worth it? I don't know. Let me try it. But you may also end up eating them when you don't even want them. And that just feels like a waste to me. So find something else. Maybe your dad could send you flowers instead, or a plant. I love that. Or a care package from Thrive Market. That's the new Valentine's Day tradition. I love that. And it is sweet. It is very sweet that he checked in with you. That is really sweet. And he always asks, oh, We love our dads, don't we? I got to have my dad here with me on YouTube Live a couple Saturdays ago, and he had so much fun. He had so much fun. He was like a little pretend grumpy about it, like, okay, I'll come in, but like I probably won't stay for the first. I'll only stay for a few minutes. And he stayed the entire time and talked about his Whole30 and his experience and how much, like, when he did his first Whole30, how it cured him of his soda habit. He was like a Pepsi drinker, and he went to drink it after his first Whole30 and didn't like the flavor and never drank it again. I mean, it was just fun. We love it. And yes, Jenna, we are excited to try Court and Rind. I love it. All right, so we are coming up on 45 minutes here. Any last minute questions before we reintroduce legumes tomorrow? Here, let me pull up the schedule so we know what is going on. So we are, let me close out Jenna's comment here. So we are here on the very last YouTube Live of this week on prep for reintroducing legume day. Tomorrow, which is Saturday, you're going to reintroduce legumes. So tomorrow's the day. It's going to be black beans, refried beans, soy, tofu, tempeh, edamame. Edamame in the frozen section would be fantastic for snacking. Love that idea. All of those different peanut butters and peanuts and chickpeas and hummus, just read your labels, make sure there's no dairy in those ingredients. We're going to bring that stuff back in all by itself on Saturday. Sunday, we are going back to the Whole30. Okay, so you'll be on your own on Sunday going back to the Whole30. And then we will be back here on Monday for another YouTube Live. And Monday, we're going to double down. Monday, we're going to talk about reintroducing both non-gluten grains and dairy because I am traveling all of next week. I'm traveling for media and meetings, and I won't be able to do my YouTube Live from the set of Good Morning America 3. So you can find me on my stories. I will definitely give you some fun behind the scenes, but we're not going to be live for a few days. So we're going to do a live on Monday. Then Saturday is like a TBD. I will let you know, but I think I'm not flying home until Saturday. We might end up doing a YouTube Live on Sunday morning before the Super Bowl. How do we feel about that? Because originally I was like, oh, we shouldn't do a live on Super Bowl Sunday, but it could be the funnest thing that we do. Come together for a little bit on Sunday, prep for gluten grains, which will happen after the weekend, but then we can talk about, like, what are you doing for Super Bowl? Do you have any fun recipes that you want to make? How did your last reintroduction go? So we'll play it by ear. I will definitely let you know, but for sure, you will be back here with me on Monday to do our prep. And by Monday, I will have the rest of the week's schedule. How does that sound? So we are absolutely going to do that. Yes. And yes, that's what we're going to do. I will see you on Monday. That's what I will do here. And let's just make sure. Susie is saying it's become a habit to read ingredients now. Yes. I mean, the vast majority of people who do a Whole30 are reading labels for the rest of their lives. It doesn't mean that you're avoiding things that you see on labels. It's not like you're reading labels so that you can always avoid XYZ. It just means you're really used to flipping a product over and going, what's in this? Let me see what's in it. Do these ingredients work for me? How much added sugar is in this? How much protein is in this? It's a habit that the vast majority of people take with them long after their Whole30 is over. And I think it is a habit that will serve you well. So yes. Lisa is saying, have you ever heard of anyone being able to tolerate beans but not peanut butter? Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Peanuts are one of the most allergenic foods. Now, if you are allergic to peanuts, you already know this and you will not be reintroducing peanuts. Like, that should hopefully go without saying. If you have an allergic reaction, that is a literal life-threatening reaction. That's not on the menu. But yeah, there are definitely people who are sensitive to peanuts, but are not as sensitive to legumes. Yes, absolutely. So you could always test that out in, including them in different meals and then kind of rolling them in a little more slowly in your food freedom to sort of double check your experiment. Maggie is wondering what plant-based Whole30ers are reintroducing tomorrow. I don't remember off the top of my head because, Maggie, there are two different schedules for plant-based Whole30. One that reintroduces animal protein and one that does not reintroduce animal protein. So it kind of depends on which reintro schedule you're doing for plant-based Whole30, but you can find the reintroduction schedule on the Whole30 website. So if you go to the plant-based, you will see the full reintroduction schedule just like you can see for the original Whole30, and based on which one you're doing, you'll be able to see which day people are on. Yes. And I couldn't build both original and plant-based Whole30 into these lives because People are reintroducing so many different things on so many different days, but all the info you need is on the website. Absolutely. Susan is saying Sunday morning could be great. I love that. Great to prep before the Super Bowl. Yes, yes, yes. Sounds so fun. I will be on GMA 3. I think it's Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday the 8th. Is that the actual date? I will let you know on Instagram. I'm pretty sure it's Wednesday the 8th that I will be live in the morning from the GMA3 studios. And it's going to be really, really fun. I'm not sure who the hosts are yet. I think it's going to be DeMarco and Rhiannon, I think, but I'm not 100% positive yet. They couldn't tell me on my call yesterday. So either way, it's going to be really, really fun. And I will be talking about the Book of Boundaries and relationships and my relationship golden rule. So it's going to be a really fun segment. Yes. And yes, church is 1 p.m. on Sundays. Okay, Kathleen, I got it. Yeah, Sunday morning might be tough for church. Okay, I'm going to think about this, and I will have a plan for you by the time Monday rolls around. I got to look at my travel schedule as well. So let's do it. And before we sign off, as always, please do subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe. Make sure you hit that little thumbs up like button. We want you to like the channel so that more people see this video. And thank you so much for joining today when we talk about legume reintroduction. I hope your reintroduction day tomorrow goes swimmingly. You can always find me on Instagram at Melissa Yu. Send me a message, leave me a comment, ask me a question, and we will be back here live on Monday to talk about our next reintroduction categories, and you can tell me all about how legumes went for you. So have a good rest of your day, enjoy your weekend, and enjoy your next reintroduction food group. I will see you on Monday. Thanks, everyone.